If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. The Cleveland Browns are once again making headlines, and this time, it's not just for what's happening on the field. After a whirlwind of a week that included a surprising trade, a heartbreaking loss, and a lot of noise from fans and analysts, the team finds itself at a crossroads, sitting at a disappointing 1-4 record as Week 6 of the NFL season begins. The move that really got everyone talking came midday Tuesday, when Cleveland shocked the football world by trading veteran backup quarterback Joe Flacco to their in-state rivals, the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, you heard that right. A divisional trade with one of their most hated opponents. That's not something you see every day in the NFL. And for a team that's been struggling to find its footing, this move raised a whole lot of eyebrows. For many, the trade looked like a white flag moment. Like the Browns were quietly admitting that this season might already be slipping away and they were ready to shift focus toward next year. After all, trading away a veteran quarterback who brought stability and experience to the locker room isn't usually something a team chasing wins does. But Denzel Ward, the heart and soul of the Browns defense, wasn't having any of that talk. When he stepped up to the microphone on Wednesday, his message was loud and clear. This team is still about winning. That's what this team is about, Ward said, with conviction that almost made you forget the record staring them in the face. We're trying to win and bring one to the city and the organization. We're close. Now, if you follow Denzel Ward's career, you know he's not the kind of guy to just throw words around. This is a player who's been with Cleveland through the ups, the downs, and everything in between. 8 years wearing that brown and orange, feeling the energy of a fan base that's been hungry for success for decades. He's seen the highs, like those rare playoff-caliber seasons that gave this city a taste of what winning feels like. And he's endured the lows, the kind of heartbreak that seems to follow this franchise around like a storm cloud. So when Ward says the Browns are still committed to winning, you can hear the weight of experience in his voice. He's not sugarcoating. He's not spinning a PR line. He's speaking from a place of belief, a belief that this team, despite the chaos, is still fighting. But let's be honest here. It's hard for fans to buy into optimism when the team's sitting at 1-4 and just traded away one of the most respected veterans in the locker room. The offense has been inconsistent, the coaching staff is under fire, and while the defense has shown flashes of brilliance, those flashes haven't been enough to keep the team out of the loss column. The Browns' defense, statistically speaking, has been one of the best in the league when it comes to yardage allowed, second overall in that category, but the scoreboard tells a different story. They're giving up 24.6 points per game, which ranks 21st in the NFL. That's the kind of contradiction that drives defensive-minded players crazy. It means they're doing almost everything right between the 20s, but when it matters most, in those crucial moments late in games, something breaks down. And no one knows that better than Ward himself. This past Sunday against Minnesota, with just 25 seconds left on the clock, Ward found himself on the wrong end of a game-winning touchdown. Vikings receiver Jordan Addison made the grab, and that was it. Another gut-wrenching loss for the Browns. Ward didn't dodge responsibility, didn't point fingers, didn't hide behind excuses. He owned it. He stood in front of cameras and said that the play was on him. That kind of accountability says a lot about the kind of leader he's become. It's easy to lead when things are going great, but it's in moments like those, when you're facing the noise, the criticism, and the frustration, that real leadership shows itself. So, when Ward says the Browns are still 100% committed to winning, it carries weight. It's not just talk for the cameras. Inside that locker room, players like him set the tone. And that's crucial right now, because this team is heading into a defining stretch of the season. Their next stop? A tough road trip to Pittsburgh, where they'll face the 3-1 Steelers, one of the hottest teams in the AFC right now. And if there's one thing you can always count on in Browns-Steelers matchups, it's intensity. The crowd will be loud, the hits will be harder, and emotions will be running high. It's the kind of game that can either spark a turnaround or completely unravel what's left of a season. Ward knows this. The defense knows this. The entire city of Cleveland knows this. If the Browns want to keep their season alive, it starts with their defense. Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith will have to pressure the quarterback relentlessly. The secondary will need to stay disciplined, and Ward himself will need to bring his A game. The Steelers have been efficient this year, not flashy but steady, and they thrive on opponents' mistakes. Cleveland can't afford those mental lapses anymore, not after what happened last week. But there's something about this Browns team that still feels like it has untapped potential. You can see it in how the defense rallies, and how the young guys are starting to step up after the veterans pave the way. Maybe that's what the Flacco trade was really about, not waving the white flag, but signaling a shift in focus, a belief that the future starts now. By clearing the path for rookies and younger players to get real, meaningful snaps, the Browns might be accelerating their growth curve rather than delaying it. It's a risky move, no doubt. But if you're already in a hole, sometimes the best thing you can do is shake things up and see who rises to the occasion. Still, the optics are tough. Fans are frustrated, analysts are skeptical, and the media storm isn't going away anytime soon. Yet, within the walls of the Browns facility, you get the sense that the message being drilled home is simple. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Ward echoed that sentiment perfectly when he said, "That's all we preach about in these meetings and why we're here, to find a way to win." That's still the 100% goal. It's the kind of statement that captures the mindset of a competitor. No matter how bleak things look, the mission doesn't change. You show up. You work. You fight for the guy next to you. For Cleveland, that mentality is everything. This is a city that thrives on grit, on resilience, on never-say-die energy. The fans here don't expect perfection. They expect effort. They expect heart. And if Ward and this defense can bring that kind of fire into Pittsburgh this weekend, it could be the start of something. Maybe not a playoff push just yet, but a turning point, a reminder that this team still has some fight left in it. And you can bet that if the Browns somehow pull off a win in Pittsburgh, the narrative will shift overnight. Suddenly, people will start talking about how this defense looks like one of the best in football again, how the young quarterbacks are getting valuable reps, how the trade of Joe Flacco might have been part of a bigger, bolder vision for the team's future. That's the beauty of football. Momentum can change everything in the blink of an eye. One play, one game, one moment can redefine a season. Denzel Ward understands that better than most. He's lived through the heartbreaks, the rebuilds, the maybe next year chance. But he's also tasted the electricity that comes with winning in Cleveland, that buzz that turns the whole city into a sea of brown and orange when the team starts rolling. And that's what he's fighting for. That's what the Browns are still chasing. Not just wins, but belief. The belief that, even in the darkest stretches of the season, there's still light ahead. So yeah, the Browns might be 1-4. They might have just traded Joe Flacco. The national narrative might already be writing them off. But inside that locker room, guys like Denzel Ward are keeping the fire alive. They're not done. Not yet. Because if there's one thing you should never underestimate, it's the heart of a team that's got something to prove, in a city that refuses to stop believing. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. Something strange is going on inside the Cleveland Browns locker room, and it's starting to spill beyond the closed doors of the facility in Berea, Ohio. You can feel the tension even from the outside, like static electricity building before a storm. People close to the team are whispering. Insiders are talking off the record, and what they're saying is explosive. A group of Brown stars, some of the team's biggest names, are reportedly uniting behind the scenes to push quarterback Deshaun Watson out of Cleveland. Yeah, you heard that right. A full-blown internal rebellion might be brewing against the man the Browns once believed would lead them to glory. When the Browns made that blockbuster trade in 2022, giving up a mountain of draft picks and handing Watson a fully guaranteed $230 million contract, the front office sold it as the move that would change everything. He was supposed to be the missing piece, the franchise savior who could erase decades of heartbreak. But now, 2.5 seasons later, it looks like the dream has turned into a nightmare. The team that once built its hopes around him is cracking at the seams. According to several sources close to the locker room, frustration with Watson has been building quietly for months. Frustration with his attitude, his leadership, and his commitment to the game. And in recent weeks, that quiet frustration has turned into open resentment. Players have allegedly started forming their own small circles, cliques that talk privately about how fed up they are. They say Watson isn't one of the guys. He's distant. He's defensive. Some describe him as someone who doesn't take accountability when things go wrong. preferring to point fingers or retreat into himself instead of rallying the team. And that, apparently, has rubbed several veterans the wrong way, especially those who pride themselves on grit, hard work, and accountability. One of the biggest complaints, according to whispers around the locker room, is Watson's perceived lack of urgency. Some teammates reportedly believe that he's been milking minor injuries, taking longer to recover than necessary, while the rest of the team fights tooth and nail every week. That perception, fair or not, has fractured trust inside the locker room. You can imagine how it feels for players who throw their bodies on the line week after week. Defensive linemen grinding through pain, running backs playing through bruises, only to see their star quarterback on the sidelines, half smiling, wearing designer clothes, and talking about listening to his body. To some veterans, it looks like commitment has become optional for the man they're paying the most. The rumor mill really started spinning after the last few games, when Watson once again missed key practices and looked off his rhythm on the field. Reports say several players confronted him, not in a dramatic shouting match, but in one of those subtle locker room moments when the tension says more than words ever could. You can almost picture it, the silence after a loss, guys staring at their lockers, someone muttering under their breath, another shaking his head, and Watson sitting there, expression unreadable. That kind of silence speaks volumes. And now, the story gets even wilder. Some insiders claim that multiple leaders, guys like Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, and even Amari Cooper, have quietly aligned on one thing. They're tired of the drama, and they want to change. Nobody's saying they're openly campaigning to the front office yet, but there's talk of players venting frustrations to coaches, hinting that the team might need to move on if things don't improve soon. Imagine that. The defensive anchor, the offensive stars, and the locker room veterans all feeling like they can't trust the franchise quarterback anymore. That's not just a crack. That's a full-blown fault line running through the heart of the team. And the front office? They're stuck in an impossible position. You can't just walk away from a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. You can't just trade that away like a bad fantasy pick. The Browns mortgaged their future for Watson, and that decision has boxed them into a corner. Cutting him would be financially catastrophic. Trading him would require another team to take on that massive contract. And right now, who would do that? Who would bet on a quarterback who hasn't looked like his old self since 2020 and comes with more baggage than a commercial flight? But inside the locker room, none of that matters. Players don't care about cap space or guarantees. They care about winning. They care about who's in the trenches with them, who they can trust when the game's on the line. And right now, many of them reportedly feel like Watson isn't that guy. One source described it as a complete loss of faith. Another said that the respect is gone. You can't coach that back. Once the locker room turns on you, there's almost no way to get it back. The tension has also started to affect the coaching staff. Kevin Stefanski, who's tried to keep things stable and professional, now finds himself walking a tightrope between supporting his quarterback and keeping the rest of the roster from imploding. He's been careful in his public comments, saying Watson is working hard, emphasizing that the team is focused on unity. But behind the scenes, even Stefanski is reportedly exhausted by the constant questions about his quarterback's availability and leadership. The vibe, according to one insider, is strained to the limit. It doesn't help that some players feel like Watson's special treatment has gone too far. There are whispers that he gets privileges no one else does, a lighter workload, input on offensive game plans, flexibility in how he handles meetings and recovery. That kind of thing can destroy a locker room's chemistry fast. In football culture, respect is earned every week, every practice, every down. The moment guys start thinking one player is getting star treatment without delivering star results, resentment starts to build like rust on metal. And once that rust spreads, it's almost impossible to scrape off. Fans, too, are starting to sense something's off. You can feel it in the comment sections, in the tailgate chatter, in the sports radio rants. People are tired of waiting for Watson to find his rhythm. They're tired of excuses about shoulder tightness or rust or needing more reps. When the city of Cleveland bought into the Deshaun Watson experiment, they thought they were getting a superstar, not a soap opera. Now, even diehard supporters are wondering if the team made a deal with the devil. What's wild is that some players reportedly believe that life after Watson might not be so bad. They've seen backups like Dorian Thompson-Robinson and P.J. Walker step in with heart and grit. Sure, they're not franchise quarterbacks, but they play like they care, and sometimes that's all a team needs to rally around. The locker room respects effort, not hype. And that's why this internal push to move on is growing momentum. It's less about who replaces Watson and more about what kind of culture the team wants to build. If these reports are true, and again, we're deep in the realm of whispers and locker room talk, then the Browns could be heading toward a civil war. On one side, the front office chained to a massive financial commitment. On the other, a roster of proud, hungry players who feel like they're being held hostage by a broken situation. It's the kind of conflict that can't stay hidden for long. Eventually, something will break. Maybe a confrontation, maybe a leak, maybe a trade demand. But something's coming. And honestly, you can't help but feel like we're watching the slow unraveling of one of the NFL's most controversial experiments. The Browns gambled everything on Watson, and if the locker room is turning against him now, that's the beginning of the end. The question isn't whether the team can survive this season. It's whether they can survive this quarterback. Because once the players stop believing in their leader, the whole foundation crumbles. For now, everyone's keeping their public faces on. The coaches talk about staying focused. The players post motivational quotes on Instagram. Watson smiles for the cameras and says he's locked in. But behind those smiles, the mood is tense, heavy, unspoken. And inside that locker room, according to more and more voices, the stars of the Browns have made up their minds. They've had enough. They're done waiting. They're ready to take their team back, even if that means pushing Deshaun Watson out of Cleveland. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!